And I will tell you this, you know the Liberals are losing real bad when they bring up...
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. The Liberals and NDP have decided to start attacking the Conservatives over the Pharmacare bill by linking it to a woman's right to choose. Michelle Fieri and Melissa Lantsman fired back, causing third-degree burns to the Liberals and the NDP.
Seriously, someone should call an ambulance.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
If you're under 30 in Canada, it's nothing but doom and gloom according to Bloomberg Nanos. Gen Z's confidence in their pocketbooks is at the same level that it was in the first months of the pandemic. That's a 16-year low. The budget they said was about generational fairness has turned out to be a monumental failure. Instead, young Canadians keep getting higher spending, higher inflation, and higher interest rates, and they get nothing for it. The Prime Minister was voted in by young Canadians. Why won't he admit that he's destroyed their futures, step aside, and let Conservatives fix everything he broke?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
So what we didn't show before this is there was an NDP member that was kind of calling out the Liberals for being too slow and calling out the Conservatives for voting against this and talking about a woman's right to choose. So I kind of like that the question that Lantsman responded with didn't address it at all, because that's not the fight that they want to have. They want to have a fight on affordability. And it's great that she ends it with essentially slapping Trudeau across the face with the fact that he has completely lost his young voter base, because they are now a few years older and they're kind of unhappy with the Canada that they were promised and was not delivered in the slightest. And then she goes on to say, why don't you get out of the way and actually let the adults in the room fix the country?
Well, because that's exactly what needs to happen. And like we've said in the past, the Conservatives aren't just going to swoop in and make everything better. They're not Batman. They don't just swoop in and fix all of Gotham City all in one shot. It's going to be a rough couple of years, even with the Conservatives in power, but they're going to set Canada up for the best future possible.
Mr. Speaker, our budget is about generational fairness and investing in young Canadians, investing in the housing, in the affordability and the economic growth that they urgently need. But you know what else young Canadians need, especially young Canadian women? That is control over their bodies. You get that control with free prescription contraceptives. The Conservatives are voting against our budget because they don't believe that a young woman should control her life and her body. We won't let them do that.
Excellent.
Wow.
Every word out of her mouth was just disgusting. First of all, it's not free birth control. It's taxpayer funded. So, as I've said in the past, there's a very narrow window of time when young women can be on birth control safely. And usually it's probably around the age of, say, 15 to no older than 35, because after 35, there's very, very hard evidence that suggests a woman's risk of throwing a clot and potentially dying increases. So there's about a 20-year window. But now all the rest of Canada is paying so that demographic can have access to taxpayer-funded birth control. That just seems off to me. I mean, birth control is not particularly expensive to begin with, but why are you putting that tax burden on all Canadians?
Well, and to flip this around, why are Liberals encouraging young women to have as much sex as possible?
That's the Liberal way.
Because, if they want to make the leap, why can't we, right?
Well, I mean, we're in a population... a depopulation crisis actually right now, where everybody's projecting that the population of all these countries, including Canada, is going to go down. We're not at sustainable levels. That's why we're bringing in so many immigrants. Again, the whole birth control choice as one of the medications to be covered first is very bizarre to me. The other thing that Chrystia Freeland said that was very upsetting is alluding to the fact that, in her mind at least, the Conservatives do not want a woman to have control over her reproductive health. That's completely false. If you read their party charter, you'll see it right in there that the Conservatives have absolutely no plans to alter our abortion laws. They're going to stay where they are. Also, it would be political suicide.
Yeah, we've shown this in a past video, and we'll put that in the description when we were talking about Bill C-311. Again, the Liberals will use any opportunity to try and say that the Conservatives are going to outlaw abortion. We showed a poll on that where 97% of Canadians don't want to talk about repealing abortion. So the Conservatives don't want to talk about repealing abortion either. They have no interest in it.
Yeah, from that survey, only 3% of Canadians were against all forms of abortion. Didn't matter if it was for medical reasons, didn't matter if it was from assault, doesn't matter. They're completely against it. 97% of Canadians support abortion in one form or another, from varying degrees up to, say, complete access at any gestational period, or like maybe up to a certain age, or maybe in certain circumstances, etc.
But again, you look at all of the problems in Canada, and the first problem they want to solve is handing out birth control. I think we have bigger priorities.
I'm certain all members would like to hear the question from the member of Thornhill without interruption and also hear the answers. I'll ask all members to please do so. The honourable member from Thornhill.
So cherry-picking data, misinformation, and lecturing Canadians, telling them that they are wrong. That is a choice, Mr. Speaker. Millennials are telling this government that they can't pay their rent, that they can't pay for groceries, that they can't get to work. Even the bank governor confirmed that $61 billion in new spending is, quote, not helpful when it comes to bringing down inflation and interest rates. When will the Deputy Prime Minister stop her inflationary spending so that young people stand a chance in this country?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
So, again, coming back to what's the priority here? The priority here is affordability. Do we need to be spending money on birth control when we have an affordability crisis? No, we don't. How about you don't spend money on that and, lower the deficit? How about that? Lower interest rates. This is not rocket science. But, this is all the Liberals have in order to throw a Hail Mary to try to get some sort of last-ditch support to justify their party's existence.
I notice, Mr. Speaker, that the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party did not clarify her own position on a woman's right to choose. Canadian women deserve to know.
She doesn't have to. And you know what? Even if, and this is just speculation, this is like a fantasy scenario, so don't take this as I'm saying this is what Lanceman believes, but even if she believed that she was like part of that 3% that believed nobody should have access to abortion, that's not what the party says. The party says in their policy declaration, number 86, abortion legislation, a Conservative government will not support any legislation to regulate abortion. There you go.
And I think it's just it's just something else that Freeland is just taking such glee in going after Lanceman for this. Like this is just it's ridiculous. Now, something happened yesterday during debate of the Pharmacare bill. So let's take a look at that.
Canadians did. The shockingly bad years of the Harper regime, the record deficits each and every year, bad financial management, the scandals one after another, the fact that they gave $30 billion a year in the infamous Harper tax haven treaties to the wealthy. $30 billion a year, $300 billion over the course of a dismal decade. The cuts to healthcare funding, the slashing of veterans' benefits. It was one of the worst periods in Canadian history, and this was certainly the worst government in Canadian history. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm saddened because the member herself, in her own riding, has seen the benefits of dental care already. Dozens of people, 15,000 seniors in the first 3 days, got dental treatment, dozens in Peterborough, Kawartha, and the reality is 17,000 people would benefit in her riding.
This is the second time I've heard that. I finally understood what he just said, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
People aren't getting treatment. People are signing up.
Well,
right?
no, but what he was trying to say is, 15,000, it sounded like he was saying 15,000 people in her riding got treatment. No. 15,000 people nationwide. And he's saying dozens of people in her riding. Dozens of people. Sounds like the number of people that attended the NDP convention. Only 10% of dentists in Prince Edward Island have actually signed up. Less than 25% of dentists across Canada have signed up.
Because they're going to get fleeced the way the daycares did.
Right. And they've said that this is administratively ridiculous. Gee, the government inserting themselves and making things more bureaucratic? Say it ain't so.
Well, and the thing that drives me nuts is the Liberals and now the NDP are trying to gaslight us all into believing that life was harder under Stephen Harper. I don't know about you guys, but our life was much, much more affordable under Stephen Harper.
Well, and Julian he's standing there with a straight face trying to say that Harper had record deficits. Hello?
Trudeau literally doubled the deficit. He had spent more money on credit than every single prime minister before him combined.
Right. You want to talk about record deficits.
And that was within the first few years, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's just getting worse.
And he's also saying, it was scandal after scandal. You are literally describing the Trudeau government, Mr. Julian.
Yeah, we're freaking out about a $16 glass of orange juice. Meanwhile, the Liberals are giving kickbacks to everybody.
From Pharmacare, why doesn't she listen to the 17,000 constituents that will benefit from Pharmacare?
Honourable Member Peterborough Kawartha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know what's sad for me is a liberal party that props up, or an NDP party that props up this prime minister so that he can stay in power. And if he listened to anything I said, if you really care about the most vulnerable, the disability benefit, the record highest use of food banks in history is because they are keeping him in power. That's right. Yep. So who is really standing up for people? That is what I would like to know.
Questions and comments? Question commentaire. The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Don't piss off Michelle Ferreri, man.
Yeah, she's a firecracker.
Like, she is a tiger, and you do not want to get in front of those claws.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleague for her excellent speech and certainly holding the Liberal NDP government to account on many of their promises, which is in many cases just a marketing project and actually never following up on the actual hard work of governing. Yeah. Now, my colleague mentioned a couple of times that this Pharmacare bill is nothing more than window dressing, that there's nothing in this bill that actually is a Pharmacare plan. This is merely a bill to talk about a Pharmacare plan, to maybe talk about a Pharmacare plan, to maybe later down the road talk about a Pharmacare plan. I would like to ask my colleague just if there's anything in this legislation that the NDP is championing, that this is such a big win for them just to keep the Prime Minister in power. Is there anything actually in this legislation that promises Canadian any change or additional access to healthcare products?
The Honourable Member for Peterborough Kawartha.
I love that question. No.
Questions and comments? The Honourable...
Amazing. I don't think I've ever seen that in question period.
Well, it's not question period. This is debate.
Oh, okay. That's why I haven't seen it in question period.
This is we switched gears, everybody. We switched gears to the debate yesterday that was occurring for the Pharmacare Act, but that was freaking amazing.
That was amazing.
The cameraman wasn't even fast enough to get her answer before she sat down. I love this question. No. And we've proved that. We went through the Pharmacare bill and we showed the stark contrast between the Pharmacare bill and something like Bill C-63. The Pharmacare bill was literally like 1 page, and it does exactly what MP Barlow said. We're going to talk about having, Pharmacare, and then we're going to talk about it some more, and then we're going to talk about it some more, and then we're going to talk about it some more. And maybe 5 years from now, maybe we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Deputy House Leader.
So this is what I'm worried about, Mr. Speaker. So, this bill talks about contraceptive medication, and in particular, when we talk about a woman's right to choose, what I'm worried about is that what we have the Conservative Party of Canada.
Order. Let's just make sure we get the questions and comments, and we can continue on. The honourable member for Kingston Island has the floor.
So the Conservative Party and the Leader of the Opposition has been suggesting recently that he will use the notwithstanding clause where he sees fit. On Friday, the member from Lanark Frontenac Kingston specifically said it will only be, he said, a common sense Conservative government would use a notwithstanding clause only on matters of criminal justice. Well, performing an abortion back in the 90s was considered a crime. Can this member, listen, she can very, very, very easily put my concern to rest by answering this question. Can this member categorically say that a future Conservative government would absolutely protect a woman's right to choose and not use the notwithstanding clause on a matter such as that? Yes or no?
Member for Peterborough Kawartha.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And what a question coming from a man. Mr. Speaker, I would love him to tell me what to do with my uterus, because it's great. Let me tell you, through you, Mr. Chair, you will never tell me what to do with my body. And I will tell you this. You know the Liberals are losing real bad when they bring up abortion. We will never bring this up. And to that member opposite, if you're going to get up and talk about my reproductive rights, you better put a woman up and stop mansplaining to me.
You can't.
Amazing. Caputo got up to say something.
Yeah, I think he got up to kind of, do another shot over at Gerretsen, but he realized, I'm not allowed to talk.
He didn't need to say anything. Michelle was just on fire. She just nailed it to the wall.
Well, and she used the far left logic against them, right? Because the far left, if you have a man saying anything to a woman, well, that's automatically mansplaining, right? Talking down to them in a patronizing voice.
Well, let me womansplain this one to Gerretsen, because abortion was decriminalized in Canada in 1988, not the 90s. That was 2 years before the 90s.
Here's the other thing. So Michelle Ferreri decided to, additionally respond to Gerretsen on Twitter as well, because she's just like, no, we're not having this. We're not accepting this bull crap narrative that the NDP and the Liberals are using. This is what she showed. Michelle Ferreri, page 23 of the CPC policy declaration is pretty clear, Mark. 86, abortion legislation. As Fox stated before, a Conservative government will not support any legislation to regulate abortion. But why let clarity get in the way of a good fearmonger, right? Everyone knows what you really are. And that was in response to Gerretsen saying, I'm not concerned with telling you to do anything. I'm concerned about what you and Pierre Poilievre will tell my daughter that she can do with her body. Like...
You know what? That's gross. Like, we don't have a daughter, but that just makes me feel icky, the way he phrased that. I can't even describe it. It's just, it feels gross.
But this is the thing. Michelle brought up an incredibly good point, because when the Liberals have nothing else to attack Pierre on, all they have is the age-old attack about, oh, we got to bring out the boogeyman again because we have literally nothing else to criticize the Conservatives on because they're talking too much common sense. So we better start making people think that they're going to take away abortion again.
Well, the Liberals are down 20 points in the polls, and they have a plan, quote unquote plan, to magically gain another 5 points over the summer. I don't know how they're planning on doing that, but creating this straw man argument about abortion isn't going to get that done.